The studio lights blazed, millions watching live as the anchor sneered and cut off a wounded veteran mid-sentence, his voice trembling, his dignity shattered on air. Silence fell like a blade. Then Ethan's quiet words shattered the room. I fought so people like you could talk freely. But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. It began as a flicker, a tremor in the feed, then black. 10 seconds of dead air. In the control room, producers scrambled, switching cameras, reloading graphics, muting Blake's mic before he could make another flippant remark. But the damage was done. 10 seconds was a lifetime in broadcast. Long enough for phones to light up across Houston. Long enough for social media to ignite like dry grass struck by lightning. Back in the studio, the silence was thick, almost choking. Blake shifted in his seat, still holding the echo of his own smirk. But now the studio lights felt hotter, tighter. Even he could feel the shift. Something vital had snapped beneath the polished sheen of showbiz bravado. Ethan sat still, his spine unnaturally straight, eyes unblinking. His hands rested in his lap like a soldier at attention, clenched but steady. Every eye on set had turned toward him, not in mockery, not in amusement, but in a kind of reverent awe. His words had landed like a sledgehammer on the glass face of the broadcast. In that moment, no one was thinking of the ratings. The commercial break never ended. Network executives called in, local affiliates pulled the feed. Channel 7's live stream went dark, then quietly began broadcasting a rerun of a wildlife documentary. Viewers who hadn't changed the channel were now watching a lioness stalk her prey, unaware that a far more human kind of predation had just been exposed minutes earlier. Within the hour, the clip of Blake's mockery was already on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, even LinkedIn. Thousands of captions, none kind. Veterans groups reposted it with disbelief. Others added subtitles to Ethan's quiet, devastating response. I fought so people like you could talk freely was now on shirts, in stylized font across banners, on hastily made GoFundMe pages with titles like Stand with Sergeant Cole. And then came the deluge of stories. A woman in San Antonio shared that her brother, also a vet with a stutter, had stopped speaking in public after years of ridicule. A teacher from Baton Rouge said she played Ethan's clip for her students, telling them, "This is what dignity sounds like." A fellow Marine posted a photo of Ethan in uniform from the early 2000s, captioned, "He's earned the right to stutter and to speak." Even those who had laughed off camera began to feel the gravity. One of the producers, Maria Delgado, 12 years on the job, resigned by midnight, citing a moral line crossed that cannot be uncrossed. Her resignation letter, screenshotted and shared, went viral within hours. By the next morning, Ethan's name was on every major network, not for being a guest, but for being a symbol of restraint in the face of cruelty, of grace where outrage might have been understandable. He hadn't asked for the spotlight, he certainly hadn't chased it, but now, caught in its beam, he stood, not polished, not media-trained, but whole. And Blake? He was no longer smirking. Backstage, the atmosphere was a powder keg primed to ignite. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, but no one seemed to notice. Lindsay Moore, the show's producer, paced in a tight circle, phone pressed to her ear, voice clipped and sharp as she tried to manage the fallout. Blake Harrison, however, lounged arrogantly in a worn leather chair, still sporting that insufferable smirk, as if the outrage swirling around him were little more than background noise to his performance. Then the call came. The voice on the line was crisp, official, and unmistakably authoritative. A lieutenant colonel from the Pentagon's Public Affairs Office, calm but icy. That broadcast disrespected a decorated Marine in front of a national audience. We will be issuing a statement shortly, and trust me, you'll want to see it before you air anything else. The line went dead. Lindsay's eyes widened. The room seemed to shrink. The faint hum of equipment dimmed beneath the weight of the message. Blake's smirk faltered just slightly, like a shadow passing over an arrogant sun. Word spread faster than wildfire. Social media erupted, fierce, immediate, unforgiving. The hashtags exploded across platforms. Justice for Ethan, #fire Blake. Now, respect our veterans. Thousands, then tens of thousands, shared the clip of Ethan Cole's quiet dignity, standing in stark contrast to Blake's scorn. Veteran groups, military families, and public figures lent their voices to the chorus of condemnation. A retired four-star general broke the silence, sharing a grainy but powerful video of Ethan in Afghanistan. Chaos erupting all around, smoke and fire clawing at the air. Ethan hauling wounded comrades from a burning Humvee under relentless enemy fire. His uniform torn, his face smeared with soot and blood, he whispered through cracked, damaged vocal cords, "Tell my mom I'm okay." The video's final frame lingered, Ethan's determined eyes, a testament to sacrifice and bravery. The tide of compassion quickly turned into a tidal wave of anger. Blake's once iconic smirk became a symbol of media callousness and entitlement, performative cruelty masquerading as entertainment. Corporate sponsors recoiled, yanking their ads from Channel 7's evening slot in rapid succession. The station's financial lifeline began to fray visibly. Behind closed doors, the station's board convened an emergency meeting. The room was thick with tension, voices hushed but urgent. The executives debated damage control, public relations strategy, and whether Blake's contract could survive the mounting backlash. Meanwhile, a prominent veterans advocacy group filed a formal complaint with the FCC, citing the broadcast as harmful, irresponsible, and disrespectful to those who served. The complaint promised legal scrutiny that could endanger the station's license and reputation. Lindsay's phone buzzed relentlessly. Calls from legal teams, the network's higher-ups, and frantic PR consultants. The hum of chaos grew deafening, each ring another reminder that the incident had become far bigger than a single, ill-advised insult. Amid the turmoil, Ethan remained a steady, unshakable figure. Far from the manic frenzy backstage, his story had crystallized into something unassailable, a quiet testament to resilience and honor that could not be tarnished by mockery. As the hours passed, the anger surrounding Blake morphed from a social media uproar to a tangible reckoning. The veneer of untouchable celebrity was cracking, exposing the raw vulnerability beneath. The calls from the Pentagon signaled the stakes had escalated beyond ratings and outrage. They now touched the very core of national respect for those who served. In that crucible of fury and accountability, Channel 7 found itself at a crossroads, forced to confront the consequences of entertainment at the expense of humanity, and the price paid when compassion is overshadowed by cruelty. The night Channel 7's evening news was scheduled to air, a heavy silence fell over the city's television screens. The familiar anchor desk sat empty, sterile under the harsh studio lights, a ghostly reminder of what once was. Instead of the usual broadcast, viewers were met with a stark message in plain white text against a black background. "We are undergoing internal review. Thank you for your patience." No smiling faces, no polished headlines, only the cold reality of a network grappling with its own misstep. The message lingered, unsettling in its brevity, a silent acknowledgement of turmoil that no public statement could fully articulate. Behind the scenes, the aftermath of the previous night's scandal churned like a tempest. Blake Harrison's downfall was swift and irrevocable. The once arrogant anchor, who reveled in provocation, found himself stripped of his platform, his contract terminated without ceremony. Attempts at public defense, invoking cancel culture and free speech, fell on deaf ears, drowned out by a chorus of condemnation. His name, once a draw for ratings, was now synonymous with callousness and disgrace, a cautionary tale whispered in newsroom corridors and veteran circles alike. In stark contrast, Ethan Cole's star ascended with a quiet dignity that refused to be diminished. The man whose voice had faltered under pressure now commanded national attention, not for polished rhetoric, but for an authenticity that resonated deeply. Invitations poured in from every corner of the media landscape. Late-night talk shows eager to showcase his story, podcasts drawn to his unvarnished honesty, and government panels seeking insight into veterans' needs beyond the statistics and sound bites. Ethan did not just speak, he inspired. His mission was clear and urgent. He founded Broken Doesn't Mean Silent, a nonprofit dedicated to empowering veterans grappling with speech impairments, offering job training, mentorship, and a community bound by shared struggle. The organization quickly became a beacon for those whose voices had been marginalized, turning personal adversity into collective strength. Half a year later, Ethan stood at the White House, a setting as imposing as it was symbolic. The familiar tremble in his hands and the slight catch in his voice persisted, but there was a new-found steadiness in his gaze. As the Presidential Citizen's Medal was pinned to his chest, the weight of recognition settled around him like a mantle earned through courage rather than ceremony. "I used to think my voice was broken," he said, eyes fixed firmly on the cameras, "but I've learned it just needs to be heard differently." The words, simple yet profound, echoed far beyond the walls of the ceremony. They captured a journey not just of survival, but of transformation, turning perceived weakness into undeniable strength. America listened, not with the impatience that once marred his live interview, but with respect, empathy, and admiration. Meanwhile, Blake's attempts to reclaim relevance grew increasingly desperate. Online, he flailed in obscurity, chasing viral moments on live streams that attracted only a handful of viewers. His brand of brash provocation, once a reliable recipe for ratings, now rang hollow, a relic of a media culture rapidly evolving beyond cynicism and cruelty. In the wake of scandal, the media landscape shifted. What was once a platform for mockery became a stage for healing and advocacy. Ethan's rise was not just personal redemption, it was a powerful rebuke to the forces that had sought to diminish him. His story closed the chapter on a cruel moment with an enduring message. Respect is earned not through loudness, but through truth. The broadcast blackout was not merely a pause in programming, it was a symbolic reset. It marked the end of an era where mockery masqueraded as entertainment, and the beginning of one where voices like Ethan's would no longer be silenced or mocked, but heard, valued, and amplified.